All right, let's talk a little bit about the George Zimmerman interview on Sean Hannity's show there on Fox News. Let me begin with saying I thought the interview, from a personality standpoint, Zimmerman came across as coached and cold and just, I mean, the information was good. The presentation was horrible. I don't know. I'd say it's a toss-up. I think the information helps him. I think the presentation hurts him. You know, I think the part that turned me off is when he said it was part of God's plan. Let me tell you something. God doesn't plan. He doesn't micromanage the affairs of men. Or when I say that, I should say humankind. I think I'm so sick and tired of listening to people say that, you know, it's God's plan. You know, I've talked to my family about this. And yes, I do believe there's a God. But I don't believe he is as active in the micromanaging the affairs of the folks here on planet Earth. There are a lot of reasons for that. Maybe I'll get into it another time. But I thought George Zimmerman trying to invoke that, and he was just monotone when he said that he wasn't going to second-guess God's plan. I mean, it was so monotone. His apology just rang hollow to Martin's parents. What's he apologizing for? You know, I look at the facts. I don't care about anything. I want to know exactly what happened. That's all I care about. You know, George Zimmerman, if you ever go on YouTube and you may stumble across this, here's what you should come up. You want to be angry about something? You want to show a little passion and say, you know what? You know, I'm sorry that his parents suffered a loss. I'm sorry that they, you know, that they lost their son. But I am sorry that their son provoked things and pushed things and put me in a position where I had no choice but to defend my life. I don't apologize for doing what I had to do to protect myself. I'm sorry for the loss of the parents. That's what he needs to say. You know, all these people that think, you know, Zimmerman somehow because he shadowed this guy, you know, followed him, whatnot, provoked all this. Let me tell you, you're an idiot. You're just a downright, you're a buffoon. Come on. Is following someone against the law? If you see something that doesn't look right, is that against the law? Really? Did you bother to listen to this interview that he gave? You know, they've had multiple break-ins. His own wife was scared to death because they saw a man enter their neighbor's house, and it was a single mom with a child, and she barricaded herself in a bedroom. And Zimmerman's wife saw the guy leave the house with some of her belongings. So that's why Zimmerman got involved in Neighborhood Watch. You know, that's another thing Zimmerman should have brought up. He goes, you know, I'm not sorry that I defended myself. You know, I think it's miserable that I was put in a position. I'm upset with Trayvon Martin that he put me in a position where I had to, you know, take someone's life. I'm upset with all the people that broke into this neighborhood, you know, who caused extra scrutiny to be put on people. But let me tell you, it is not against the law to follow somebody. It is absolutely not against the law. If it is, oh, geez, next time you're jogging down a trail and someone thinks you might be following them, what? They have the right to turn around and assault you? Really? So now, following some. Furthermore, let's think about the 911 call. The whole one, not that cheap half-ass edited version you get from PMS NBC. The dispatcher, when George Zimmerman called in, the dispatcher told him, we have an officer on the way, let us know if he does anything else. Now, how the hell do you let the police dispatcher know if this guy's doing anything else unless you observe what he's doing? And how do you observe him? Yeah, you have to kind of keep an eye on him. The dispatcher told him to do it. Then when he lost sight of George Zimmerman, or when George Zimmerman lost sight of Trayvon Martin, you can hear him on the tape again. He says, well, I don't see him anymore. He, whatever, he eluded me. And that's when the dispatcher said, are you following him? And he said, yeah. And he says, we don't need you to do that. Again, that's not a saying don't do it. It's just we don't need you to do it. You can interpret that one way or another. But Zimmerman at that point was returning to his vehicle. That's where Trayvon Martin, the thug, came out and turned something that there was no crime. Once he struck George Zimmerman, that's a crime. That is where you have a right to stand your ground. And I'll tell you what, I am sick and tired of people making excuses for these little thugs and these punks and these pukes that run around assaulting people, and they get nothing happens to them. Flash mobs, 300 people running into a Walmart. I mean, what kind of, that 300 kids running in there, ransacking the place, acting all crazy, that to me is an act of, that's a terrorist act. How, if you're just a handful of skeleton crew at Walmart, you got 300 people running in there, wouldn't you be a little bit scared? I absolutely would be. I'm sick and tired of people making excuses. Oh, he's just a little doughy-eyed little 12-year-old. No, he wasn't. This guy with a 6'2" athlete. You telling me when he eluded George Zimmerman, he couldn't have run a couple hundred feet to his condo right there at the end of the street? You telling me he couldn't have got on the cell phone that he had in his hand talking to his girlfriend, supposedly at the time, and called police and said, hey, somebody's following me. It's creeping me out. Please get here. No, he didn't do it. George Zimmerman called the police when he saw something a little suspicious. Not Trayvon Martin. Oh, no, because he wasn't going to be dissed by no little Hispanic boy. Yeah, he went over there. He was going to show him the what fors. You know what? And now we got a man who was forced to defend himself against being killed that night. And now he's looking at being sentenced to life in prison or 25 years plus to prison. Not to mention he has no life now because he can never go anywhere and be safe. Why? Because we got the Black Panthers running around with a coward like Eric Holder who excuses every single violent action of a black person. You got Eric Holder. He won't hold him accountable. These people put a bounty out on another man's head, said, we're going to kill this man. Does Eric Holder look into it? No. Why? Birds of a feather. The nut doesn't fall far from the tree. They're all black. And frankly, I think that's a load of horse crap. I don't care if you're black or white. You can't go out and put a bounty on a man's head. Where the hell are you, Eric Holder? You're too busy suing, Florida for trying to get people who aren't even legally registered, legal to vote off the voter rolls. And you're over there pissing and moaning about that and impeding Arizona from trying to keep illegal from wrecking the state. Do your damn job. Hopefully you've only got 6 more months, and then maybe we'll get someone with honor and dignity and a shred of common sense. But Trayvon Martin brought this on himself. This is Trayvon Martin acting like a thug. George Zimmerman, you need to pull your head out of your ass and start speaking from your heart instead of some script. It's ridiculous. Oh, I'm not going to second guess God. Pfft. Sorry, let me let you in on something, George. This isn't God's plan. God doesn't plan on you to murder. Let me back up. You didn't murder. You killed somebody. God doesn't plan on people to be killed like that. God doesn't do that. Okay? You know what God does? He knows life is the way life is. And he sits back and he judges us on how we deal with life, with the things that happen to us in life. God doesn't make these things happen. God's not testing us. God's not that cruel. God's not going to sit there and have someone, some child murdered so that we can, so he can have part of his plan fulfilled. No. He knows that there's bad crap that happens, and he wants to see how we're going to deal with it. That's what God does. This poor woman up there in Iowa who's got 2 missing children. I know she's praying, she has faith that God's going to bring her kids home. Well, you know what? That's all fine and wonderful, but what if your kids don't come home? Does that mean you didn't have faith? Does that mean God doesn't exist? Does that mean God's mean? God picks favorites? God's cruel? No. God doesn't do any of this stuff. He sits back. He lets life happen. And then he's like, oh, okay. Just like we are as parents. You know what? We counsel our kids and we tell our kids and we teach our kids, but then you got to step back and let your kids make their mistakes. When they fall down, you got to let them get up. You know? And it's all right if they fall down and they get up and they say, hey, Dad, what did I do wrong? Oh, you should have tied your shoelaces. Remember? I taught you that. Oh, yeah. You know, that's what God does. Okay? God's not going to sit there and say, oh, you get a miracle and you get one, but none for you. Because I have a plan. Yeah, I want you to die and burn to death in a horrible car accident. No. Anyway, that's just getting off track. But, again, look at the facts. Let the facts rule the case here. And it is absolutely not a crime to follow somebody. It's a danger. If you convict him because you think he was the aggressor because he followed someone, oh my God, think of the precedent that you just set there. Because now, oh geez, if I suspect somebody's following me, what? I can turn around, break their nose, and bash their head into the concrete because I think I'm being followed? Better yet, I mean, what if you're a concealed carry holder? You know? What if the shoe was on the other foot and George Zimmerman's just, walking down the sidewalk there to go to Target, and he sees Trayvon Martin just walking behind him? And he determines that he's being followed. Well, by God, I can turn around and shoot this guy because he's following me, and I don't like to be followed. So, think about this, folks. All right? Use your head. If you hate, don't sit and go, oh, I hate guns, so I'm going to come out again. Pull your head out of your ass, okay? Put your biases aside and just use your mind. Use the mind that God gave you. Use some common sense, okay? Don't sit there and try to think about it with your heart. Oh, gee, poor boy's dead. No, a poor boy's not dead. You know, a little thug, well, not a little thug, a 6'2" athletic thug is dead. So a thug who assaulted another man, broke his nose, bashed his head into the ground. Okay? That's who died. So, anyway, that's all I have to say about that. Again, I think it was a split decision on the interview. It's good that he got some information out there, but the delivery sucked. Absolutely sucked. You know? So, anyway, for what it's worth, that's my thoughts.